Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Hmm.
Today, we're going to tackle something pretty universal, something we all kind of grapple with: negative thinking. You know those moments when self-doubt creeps in and that inner critic just takes over? Yeah, we're all too familiar with that feeling, right? Well, to guide us through this exploration, we're using a really insightful piece called "Breaking Free from Negative Thinking," subtitle: How Self-Criticism Impacts Happiness.
Yeah, it's almost like having a roommate,
Yeah.
one who specializes in negativity, just constantly whispering doubts in your ear and just, undermining your confidence. And what's surprising? This kind of thinking, it's way more common than a lot of people realize.
Oh, absolutely. We all have those occasional dips in self-esteem, those moments of self-doubt. But what happens when those negative thoughts, they become like the soundtrack to your life? That's what we're going to explore today. And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll have some really solid strategies, to turn down the volume on that inner critic.
What's fascinating is that the source we're diving into today, it really emphasizes this distinction, right? Between between healthy self-reflection and the kind of self-criticism that's just downright destructive. Like a little introspection can be beneficial for growth, absolutely. But when it morphs into this constant negativity, that's when things can really start to unravel.
So let's unpack that a bit. So the source defines negative thinking as that tendency, right, to fixate on our faults, always anticipating the worst, and basically just viewing everything through this hypercritical lens. It's like seeing the world in shades of gray, even when there's splashes of color all around. And then there's self-criticism, which takes that negativity and aims it inward, right, turning into this relentless judge that scrutinizes every perceived flaw.
It reminds me of that quote by Theodore Roosevelt, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Right.
I mean, this kind of thinking, it often stems from comparing ourselves to others,
Yeah.
whether it's achievements, appearances, or even just like those seemingly perfect lives that are, portrayed on social media.
It's so easy to get caught in that comparison trap, especially in today's, hyper-connected world. But beyond those external pressures, the source also highlights how deeply ingrained this negativity can be. It
Yeah.
can be rooted in childhood experiences, those early messages we receive about our worthiness or capabilities. Think back for a moment. Were you often criticized or held to these incredibly high standards growing up? Because those experiences, they can leave a lasting imprint, right? And shaping how we view ourselves even years later.
Yeah, it's like those early experiences, they create a blueprint,
Hmm.
for how we talk to ourselves, even when those voices are no longer present. And unfortunately, this constant self-criticism, it can have some pretty profound psychological effects.
Okay, let's dive into that. What are some of the ways this negativity can impact us on a deeper level?
Well, the source breaks it down into four key areas. The first and perhaps the most obvious one is lowered self-esteem and a diminished sense of self-worth. I mean, when you're constantly putting yourself down, you start to internalize those messages from
Okay.
believing that you're simply not good enough. And this can chip away at your confidence, making it difficult to feel proud of your accomplishments or even recognize your strengths. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where the negative thoughts you feed yourself start to manifest in your reality.
It's like you're slowly convincing yourself that you're not worthy of good things or capable of achieving your goals. That's a heavy burden to carry.
Exactly. And that leads right into the second effect,
Mhm.
increased anxiety and an overwhelming fear of failure. When you're trapped in this cycle of self-criticism, you're constantly anticipating negative outcomes, always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. It's like walking on eggshells, constantly on edge, waiting for that inevitable moment when you'll mess things up.
Yeah, you're always second guessing yourself, afraid to take risks or try new things because of fear of failure. It just looms so large.
And as the source points out, instead of seeing mistakes as valuable opportunities to learn and grow, we end up viewing them as confirmation of our inherent flaws. We get stuck in this loop of self-blame, reinforcing that negative self-image.
That's right. Which brings us to the third effect, a laser focus on failures while completely overlooking successes. It's as if we have a magnifying glass permanently fixed on everything that goes wrong, while our achievements and positive qualities just fade into the background.
I am definitely guilty of this. My brain seems wired to zero in on the negative. Like I can remember a tiny mistake I made years ago, but I'll struggle to recall a recent compliment or accomplishment. It's like my internal filing system just prioritizes the negative.
And that tendency, right, to magnify the negative while minimizing the positive,
Yeah.
it creates this distorted perception of reality.
Hmm.
We end up with this skewed view of ourselves because we're only focusing on the evidence that supports our negative beliefs. We're essentially creating our own warped reality show where the main character is constantly failing and never quite measuring up.
It's almost as if we're selectively editing our own life stories, choosing to highlight the lowlights while leaving the highlights on the cutting room floor. Okay, so we've got low self-esteem, anxiety, and a fixation on failures. What's the final piece of this puzzle?
The fourth effect is what the source refers to as the negative feedback loop. This is where things can get particularly tricky because it's a self-perpetuating cycle.
Okay, this negative feedback loop, it sounds a little ominous. What exactly does that look like in action?
It's actually pretty straightforward, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. Shortcoming, maybe you dwell on a mistake you made at work, right?
Hmm.
And that fuels those feelings of inadequacy, and it lowers your self-esteem. And then because you're feeling down on yourself, you're more likely to interpret events in a negative light, which just creates more evidence to support those negative beliefs.
So you're essentially trapped in this downward spiral where negativity just breeds more negativity.
Precisely. It's like those funhouse mirrors at a carnival. You step in front of one and suddenly you're distorted, you're stretched out, you're shrunk down. The mirror isn't reflecting reality accurately. It's just offering a distorted image. And that's what this negative feedback loop does to our perception.
Wow, that's such a powerful analogy. It really highlights how this negativity can just warp our view of ourselves and the world around us.
And of course, all of this has a significant impact on our overall happiness. The source we're using today is very clear about that connection.
Okay, let's dive into that. How does this constant negativity actually affect our ability to experience joy, contentment, those moments of genuine happiness?
Well, one of the most insidious ways is that it robs us of the ability to savor the present moment. It's as if we're constantly looking through that rear view mirror while driving, so fixated on past mistakes or future worries that we miss the beauty of the scenery passing us by.
It's like we're unable to be fully present to appreciate the good things in our lives because we're just so preoccupied with the negative. It's almost as if our minds have become these negativity magnets, constantly seeking out things to worry about or
And
criticize.
then there's the impact on our goals and aspirations, what
Wow.
what the source refers to as limiting beliefs and self-imposed barriers. Have you ever found yourself thinking, I'm just not good at that, or I could never pull that off, and then use that as a reason to avoid even trying?
Oh, absolutely. I can think of countless times when I've let those self-limiting beliefs hold me back from pursuing something I was genuinely interested in. It's like I built these invisible walls around myself, convinced that certain things were just simply beyond my reach.
That's exactly what self-criticism does. It plants these seeds of doubt that grow into these massive obstacles, preventing us from exploring our full potential and pursuing the things that light us up.
Yeah, I imagine this also fuels that sense of pessimism and hopelessness the source discusses.
Without a doubt, when you're perpetually focused on your flaws and failures, it creates this pervasive negativity that just colors your entire worldview. You start to expect negative outcomes, and that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You
Yeah.
you anticipate disappointment, so you approach situations with apprehension, and that can actually increase the likelihood of those negative outcomes occurring.
It's like wearing those gray tinted glasses we were talking about earlier. Everything just looks a little dimmer, a little less hopeful.
And sadly, this negativity can seep into our relationships and social connections, creating a sense of isolation that can actually reinforce the negative thinking.
That makes sense. How does that play out in our interactions with others?
Well, when you're feeling insecure and unworthy, it can be difficult to show up authentically in relationships. I know
Yeah.
you might find yourself, pushing people away, struggling to accept compliments, or even sabotaging your relationships without even realizing it.
I can see how that would happen if you're constantly criticizing yourself, you might assume others are judging you just as harshly. It creates this barrier to genuine connection.
Exactly. You might withdraw from social situations. Avoid vulnerability, or even reject your insecurities onto others. And ironically, this isolation, it just reinforces the negative thought patterns. It's like a vicious cycle feeding on itself.
So we're painting a pretty bleak picture here. But I know there's hope. The source doesn't just, leave us wallowing in negativity. It offers some concrete strategies for breaking free from this cycle.
Absolutely, and that's where things start to get exciting. We're not destined to be prisoners of our own negative thoughts. We have the power to shift those patterns and cultivate a more positive mindset.
Okay, I'm ready for some practical advice. Tell me everything.
The first strategy the source highlights is all about cultivating self-compassion.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does self-compassion look like in practice?
It's about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and empathy. You would offer a dear friend who's going through a tough time.
That's such a simple concept, but it's so profound when you really think about it. Instead of berating ourselves for mistakes or dwelling on our shortcomings, we need to offer ourselves that same gentle understanding.
Precisely. The source emphasizes that everyone makes mistakes. Setbacks are inevitable. It's part of the human experience. Self-compassion isn't about ignoring our flaws, or pretending we're perfect. It's
Yeah.
about acknowledging those imperfections without judgment, and offering ourselves support rather than criticism.
It's about being our own best friend, our own cheerleader, even when we, stumble or fall short.
Exactly. And that leads us to the next strategy, which is reframing negative thoughts. This is about consciously challenging those automatic negative thoughts, and choosing to view them from a more balanced and realistic perspective.
Can you give me a concrete example of what that might look like?
Sure. Let's say you make a mistake at work. Maybe you miss a deadline, or send an email with a typo. Your immediate thought might be, "I'm so incompetent. I always mess things up." That's your inner critic taking center stage. But instead of letting that thought spiral, you can choose to reframe it. You might say to yourself, "Okay, I made a mistake. Everyone does. I'm gonna learn from this and do better next time."
So it's about acknowledging the situation without letting it define you or dictate your self-worth.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
you're essentially shifting the narrative from "I'm a failure" to "I'm human, and I'm capable of learning and growing."
I love that. It's about reclaiming your power and choosing a more empowering story. What's the next tool in our negativity busting arsenal?
The next strategy the source suggests is cultivating a practice of gratitude. This one is all about shifting your focus from what's wrong in your life to what's right.
That's so important. It's incredibly easy to get bogged down in the negative, to fixate on what's lacking or what's not going our way. We often forget to appreciate the good things, the small joys, the simple pleasures that make life worth living.
Exactly. And gratitude is more than just a feel-good emotion. There's a growing body of research that shows that practicing gratitude can have a significant impact on our well-being. It can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost our immune system, and yes, even increase our levels of happiness.
Wow. I knew gratitude was powerful, but I had no idea it had so many tangible benefits.
It's pretty amazing. The source suggests a simple practice. Keep a gratitude journal, and each day write down three things you're grateful for. They can be big things, like a loving family, or fulfilling career, or small things like a beautiful sunset, or a delicious cup of coffee. The key is to really savor those moments and allow yourself to feel that sense of appreciation. I'm definitely going to give that a try. I love the idea of starting each day by acknowledging the good things in my life. It's like setting a positive intention for the day ahead. Okay, what else can we do to combat this negativity? The next strategy is all about about setting realistic goals and celebrating small wins.
I like that. I think sometimes we set ourselves up for failure by aiming for these massive, overwhelming goals. It can feel incredibly discouraging when we don't reach them, and that can feed right back into that cycle of self-criticism.
Exactly. The source suggests that instead of aiming for that huge daunting goal, we break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. It's like climbing a mountain. If you focus on reaching the summit from the very beginning, it can feel overwhelming and impossible. But if you break it down into individual switchbacks, each one feels achievable, and you can celebrate each milestone along the way.
I love that analogy. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about acknowledging and celebrating those small victories that often go unnoticed.
And those small wins can have a huge impact on our motivation and self-belief.
Yeah.
Each time we achieve a small goal, it reinforces our sense of capability and reminds us that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so we've got self-compassion, reframing, gratitude, and setting realistic goals. What's the final strategy?
The last, but certainly not least, strategy the source emphasizes is surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Oh, that's so important. The people we spend our time with have a massive impact on our mindset and our overall well-being.
Absolutely. We're social creatures, and we thrive in environments where we feel loved, accepted, and supported. The source suggests consciously cultivating relationships with people who are positive, encouraging, and accepting. These are the people who help you see your strengths, who believe in you even when you doubt yourself, and who lift you up when you're feeling down.
It's like having a personal cheerleading squad for your mental health. They remind you of your worth and help you stay focused on the positive, especially when those negative thoughts start creeping in.
Precisely. They can offer a fresh perspective, challenge those negative thought patterns, and remind you of all the wonderful qualities you possess.
So we've got a pretty impressive toolkit here. Self-compassion, reframing, gratitude, realistic goals, and surrounding ourselves with supportive people. Those are some powerful tools for transforming our relationship with negativity.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not about reaching some kind of, perfect state of positivity where negative thoughts never even cross our minds. I mean, that's just not realistic.
Right.
It's more about, recognizing those thoughts when they do pop up,
Yeah.
challenging them, and then consciously choosing a more empowering perspective.
Yeah, it's about progress, not perfection. Right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's why self-compassion is so crucial throughout this whole process. Be patient with yourself. You're learning a new way of relating to your thoughts and emotions. There will be times when you fall back into old patterns,
Mhm.
when that inner critic pipes up louder than ever. But that's okay. It's all part of the process.
Yeah, it's like learning any new skill, right? There are going to be moments of frustration, times when you feel like you're not making progress. But the key is to keep practicing, keep coming back to those core strategies, and to celebrate every step you take toward a more positive and compassionate mindset.
One of the things that really struck me about this source is
Yeah.
is is its emphasis on action. You know, it's not enough to simply understand the concepts. We need to put them into practice.
So true. Knowledge without action is like a seed that's never planted. It has the potential for growth, but it won't flourish unless we create the right conditions.
And that brings us to a final thought-provoking question for you to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
Mhm.
Imagine a friend is struggling with intense self-criticism. What one piece of advice, would you offer them?
That's such a powerful question. It really encourages us to distill all of these insights into something practical and actionable. It challenges us to think about how we can extend that same compassion and understanding to others, creating a ripple effect of positivity.
Precisely, and perhaps in answering that question for a friend, you'll discover a nugget of wisdom that you can apply to your own journey as well.
What a beautiful way to wrap things up. Remember, you have the power to shift your mindset, to cultivate self-compassion and to create a happier and more fulfilling life.
Until next time, keep diving deep. Absolutely, and remember, it's not about reaching some kind of, perfect state of positivity where negative thoughts never even cross our minds. I mean,
Hmm.
that's just not realistic.
Right.
It's more about, recognizing those thoughts when they do pop up,
Hmm.
challenging them, and then consciously choosing a more empowering perspective.
Yeah, it's about progress, not perfection, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's why self-compassion is so crucial throughout this whole process. Be patient with yourself. You're learning a new way of relating to your thoughts and emotions.
Hmm.
There will be time when you fall back into old patterns, when that inner critic pipes up louder than ever, but that's okay. It's all part of the process.
Yeah, it's like learning any new skill, right? There are going to be moments of frustration, times when you feel like you're not making progress. But the key is to keep practicing, keep coming back to those core strategies and to celebrate every step you take toward a more positive and compassionate mindset.
One of the things that really struck me about this source is its emphasis on action. It's not enough to simply understand the concepts. We need to put them into practice.
So true. Knowledge without action is like a seed that's never planted.
Yeah.
It has the potential for growth, but it won't flourish unless we create the right conditions.
Mhm. And that brings us to a final thought-provoking question for you to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. Imagine a friend is struggling with intense self-criticism. What one piece of advice, would you offer them?
That's such a powerful question. It really encourages us to distill all of these insights into something practical and actionable. It challenges us to think about how we can extend that same compassion and understanding to others, creating a ripple effect of positivity.
Precisely. And perhaps in answering that question for a friend, you'll discover a nugget of wisdom that you can apply to your own journey as well.
What a beautiful way to wrap things up. Remember, you have the power to shift your mindset, to cultivate self-compassion, and to create a happier and more fulfilling life.
Until next time, keep diving deep.